You're watching Coin TV, Channel 6.
Good morning. I'm Charles Osgood, and this is Sunday Morning. A house divided against itself cannot stand, said Abraham Lincoln, our first Republican president. The divisions of his day over slavery and states' rights produced a terrible fratricidal war that tore this country apart. The political impasse in Washington at the moment is minor compared to that. But other issues do divide America now, and divide Lincoln's party, too. Our cover story this morning takes us to Pennsylvania, where Russ Mitchell will measure the Republican tent to see how much division and how much room there is within it.
The Buchanan brigades are enlisted.
For 30 years, the Republican Party has become more conservative. The question raised by Colin Powell is whether there is room for anybody else in the party's tent. Some Republicans say no. Coming up on Sunday Morning, we'll tell you about political doings in Pennsylvania, where the three most powerful politicians are a conservative, a moderate, and a liberal, and they're all Republicans.
As for the gulf that appeared between this country's political parties last week, we will talk later on this morning with Bob Schieffer in Washington to ask how soon the federal government may be back in business again. And with Richard Threlkeld, we will travel south to the Florida Keys, and then south again from the surface of the sea to its depths, in the company of a scientist who hopes somehow to save the Earth's troubled waters. From Bill Geist, take one egg is a recipe, but not for any dish.
Remember the fairy tale of the goose that laid the golden egg? Well, that's not a goose, and this isn't a golden egg, but you'll be surprised to learn later on Sunday morning what people are willing to pay for these things on Park Avenue and Rodeo Drive.
A report from Bob Simon this morning from Israel, where, if anything, the shock of the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin is deepening now that Israelis know more about the young man who wielded the gun. Billy Taylor will be with us this morning to introduce us to the Uptown String Quartet. And John Leonard on four young men of Liverpool who took this country and the world by storm a few decades ago. First, however, here are the headlines for this Sunday morning, the 19th of November. In Islamabad, Pakistan, this morning, a powerful car bomb exploded outside the Egyptian embassy. At least 13 people have been reported killed and 59 wounded. A militant Islamic group opposed to the secular government of Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak reportedly has claimed responsibility for the attack. And on the West Bank today, in the town of Jenin, crowds gave PLO chairman Yasser Arafat a hero's welcome. Israeli troops left Jenin last Monday as part of an agreement calling for the handover of 6 cities on the West Bank and hundreds of villages by the end of the year. This is Chairman Arafat's first visit to the area. There will be a meeting today between budget negotiators for the White House and Congress, with a new Republican offer to be discussed. The offer retains a timetable for balancing the budget in 7 years, but allows for input from the president. Should this offer prove to be acceptable, it could bring laid-off federal workers back to work by tomorrow. There was a straw poll in Florida this weekend in which the men who would be president tested themselves against one another and against Republican voters, too. Correspondent Phil Jones has this report for us on the results of that straw poll.
Florida Republicans ballyhooed this as the most important GOP event of 1995. There were 9 candidates.
Steve Forbes, 18 votes. Dornan, 13 votes.
But Senators Dole, Graham, and former Tennessee Governor Alexander were the ones who had fought the hardest for the 3,400 straw poll voters.
Lamar Alexander, 749 votes. Phil Graham, 869 votes. Bob Dole, 1,104 votes.
Dole finished first with 33% of the vote. Graham was second with 26%, enough to proclaim himself the alternative to Dole.
This is a two-person race. There's only one winner here tonight.
Alexander, with his 23%, argued that it was more than a two-man race.
The presidential race is down to three people now, two United States senators and me.
Former Vice President Quayle in Orlando last night to help Florida Republicans raise money to pay for the straw poll agreed with all the candidates' claims.
Someone will challenge Bob Dole. He won't get this in a cakewalk.
Even though Dole didn't deliver a knockout punch, he did avoid an embarrassing loss. And this morning, he's still the frontrunner. Most observers believe the Republican presidential nomination is still his to lose. Charles?
Thank you, Phil. A look at sports and at the weather and a milepost by which to remember the week when Sunday morning continues.
Shouldn't Peter DeFazio's word be his bond? He pledged to run a clean campaign on the issues, but now he's running negative ads about Ron Wyden that news reports call false and misleading. The Oregonian said of DeFazio, his hot-tempered style has blunted his effectiveness. DeFazio's own hometown newspaper said, DeFazio is frustrating. He comes down on the wrong side of some big issues. Peter DeFazio, misleading ads, wrong on the big issues.
Spark and Splash is proud to announce the addition of Waterford wood pellet and gas stoves to its quality line of stoves. Waterford features fine porcelain cast iron stoves made in Waterford, Ireland. To celebrate, they're having a big sale with savings from $100 to $200 on these beautiful, super efficient Waterford stoves. Come to Spark and Splash, where quality and service make a difference. Now featuring Waterford wood pellet and gas stoves in Portland at 122nd and Airport Way, or at their downtown Battleground store.
There's no special occasion, no house guests. It's not even a holiday. It just seemed like a nice night for a Duraflame fire. Duraflame, the secret of fire.
There is a new kind of richness born of the sun. From high atop the mountains of Colombia, richness with flavor so rare, you will find it only in Folgers' new Colombian Supreme. A Colombian coffee like no other. Colombian beans, expertly roasted and ground, make this Colombian even darker than the leading Colombian brand. Dark, yet not bitter. Folgers Colombian Supreme captures Colombia. And will capture you, too.
In sports, the two Big Ten teams that might play the University of Southern California in the Rose Bowl both won handily yesterday. Ohio State versus Indiana. The Buckeyes' Bobby Hoying to Terry Glenn. He toes the line in the end zone in the first of two Glenn touchdowns. Heisman Trophy candidate Eddie George had two also. This was number one.
And he's in. Touchdown, Eddie George. Michigan to know.
And this was number two.
Simple as you might think. Eddie George.
Final score 42-3 Ohio State. 11 wins, no losses for the Buckeyes. If they beat Michigan next week, they're Rose Bowl bound. If they don't, then the surprise team of the year, Northwestern, still has a chance. Against the Boilermakers at Purdue, Chris Martin intercepted that pass and then ran it 75 yards for the touchdown.
He's out of here. One man to beat. Oliver can't get him. Touchdown, Wildcats.
Steve Schnurr hit Dwayne Bates for a 72-yard score.
Over the middle, complete to Bates. And in welcome to the Bates Motel. He's going to take it to the house. Touchdown, Northwestern.
And Northwestern's Heisman candidate Darnell Autry ran for a career record 226 yards, 65 of them on this play.
Or else he'll get run over. Darnell Autry.
They said he stepped out on the 1-foot line, but Schnurr sneaked it over on the next play. Final 23-0 Northwestern, a 10-1 season for the Wildcats, 8-0 in the Big Ten. They'll be rooting for Michigan to upset Ohio State next week. As for the weather now, it was mighty warm around the Rockies yesterday. 66 in Salt Lake City, 71 in Billings, 74 in Denver, all records for the date. Not so very warm today in those parts, but then readings in the 50s and 60s in the Rockies in the middle of November are nothing to complain about. Warm all through the south, too. Around the Great Lakes, however, in the Ohio Valley and the Northeast, a trench of cold air remains stubbornly in place, into which trench will fall a mixture of light rain and snow. Light rain down there around New Orleans, too, except for those two smudges, though the map makes quite a bright picture. Sunny tomorrow, too, at least through the central and western states, although nightfall will bring some clouds and then some rain to the northwest coast. And then in the northern Rockies and the upper Midwest, the cooling process will continue apace. 30s and 40s in the afternoon, 20s and teens at night. Gathering clouds over the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, some of which may bring rain. And there may be snow flurries here and there around the upper Great Lakes. If you want an early guess at the weather for Thanksgiving Day, we'd say bright, warm, and dry with a very high likelihood of good food. That is the indoor forecast, by the way, which is as much as we'll venture. Tom Jefferson looked out over a pretty quiet town last week from his perch beside the tidal pool there in Washington. There wasn't much going on in the nation's capital. Several 100,000 federal workers had been furloughed because there was no money to pay them. There was no money to pay them because the president was of one party, and the members of Congress, who are mostly of the other party, could not agree even on a stopgap measure that would have allowed some checks to be written. Each side says the other side is making a game of this, while it is standing up for what is right. So the polished halls of the great buildings of government were largely empty, but for some ghosts knocking about in them, probably knocking about and scratching their heads. The ghost of Alexander Hamilton, for one, I would think. He and Tom Jefferson had some pretty serious disagreements once upon a time on matters not entirely unlike the ones that brought Washington to a halt last week. But their wrangles proved useful to the infant United States. They codified their ideological tug-of-war in a document and helped to give us the Constitution. I don't know that the ghosts of the Founding Fathers would consider what we're now going through a constitutional milepost. I'm not sure I do. It doesn't feel like that. What it feels like is political posturing for next year's election. But when the conflict is resolved, as it surely will be, perhaps what will emerge is something that transcends the petty politicking and leaves our children with something better than business as usual and something other than the big bills we've been running up for them to pay.
Sai, ho finito la mia tesi di laurea.
Bravo, nonno. Su che cosa l'hai fatta?
L'improvvisazione nella musica di Bach, Dizzy Gillespie. Ho fatto tutte le mie ricerche alla facoltà di musica della Indiana University. Sì. La biblioteca della facoltà. L'IBM l'ha digitalizzata. Così con internet accesso alla musica quando voglio. Sì, sono proprio bei tempi questi.
Discover the feeling of Fix-It Fresh. A stronger, longer hold, a more secure, fresh approach to wearing dentures. And the fresh sensation gives you the confidence to live life without limits. Try a fresh approach.
At BASF, we don't make the skates, we make them ride smoother. We don't make the car, we make it more colorful. We don't make the shampoo, we make it gentler. We don't make the helmet, we make it more comfortable. At BASF, we don't make a lot of the products you buy, we make a lot of the products you buy better. BASF.
Because of the quality care standards, take care of a customer is more than just fixing a car. Can you describe the noise? It's a little. It's about listening, it's about communication. It's about getting the customer more involved. We call you by 10:30, 11. How many miles do you have on the car? You have to ask the right questions. You have to let them know that you're committed. We want you to be a customer for life. Your keys. And we thank you very much for doing business with us.
Quality care people, quality care standards at your Ford and Lincoln Mercury dealer.
Colin Powell, who could have no political affiliation during all his years on active duty in the military, recently chose to join the Republican Party. although not, as some had hoped, as its candidate for the presidential nomination. To others in the party, he would clearly have been unwelcome as a candidate. But is there room under the Republican tent for points of view so different from those of its most conservative wing? For the party of Lincoln and its leaders today, the dimensions of that tent, its depth, width, and breadth, are the keystone to the party's future. Our cover story this morning, reported by Russ Mitchell, takes us to the Keystone State.
When Colin Powell was only thinking about running for president as a Republican, some prominent conservatives fired these warnings.
A broad range of activists, from pro-family conservatives to economic conservatives, would walk out of the Republican Party.
The ongoing conservative revolution in this country is a revolution against Nelson Rockefeller and Colin Powell.
It is a 30-year-old argument.
It is essential that this convention repudiates here and now any doctrinaire militant minority, whether communist, Ku Klux Klan, or Bircher.
It was the 1964 Republican Convention. Moderates had controlled the party for decades. Now their leader, New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller, warned that extremists wanted to take over. He was booed.
The governor is entitled to be heard for 5 minutes. That's right. Now, he can't be heard for 5 minutes, and we're going to have these constant interruptions.
Thank you. The platform could be improved.
Republican Governor William Scranton of Pennsylvania tried to strengthen the platform on civil rights. The convention refused. Moderates never had a chance. They lost the nomination and control of the party to a man from Arizona.
Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
Barry Goldwater turned the Republican Party to the right. Ronald Reagan nailed it there. Is there room in the party of Lincoln for moderates like Colin Powell? To find out, we left the Washington Beltway and went north to the state where the nation was born, Pennsylvania.
I think to our credit within the Republican Party in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we don't disqualify able men and women based on a litmus test or two.
Reach across the aisle.
Tom Ridge was part of the Republican election steamroller last year when he won the Pennsylvania governor's race. What's so unusual is that Ridge is not a Newt Gingrich Republican. He's a pro-choice moderate.
Moderates just have a little steeper hill to climb in order to get our message out there, or those who may differ with the majority opinion may have to yell a little louder. It's more of a challenge to get their point of view across on some of these issues. I mean, it becomes a little disconcerting because there are some fringes in both Republicans and Democratic parties that basically have a philosophy, my way or the Beltway.
How steep is that climb? How loud do you have to yell at times?
Depends on the issue. Sometimes you need an extra megaphone or two in order to get your point across.
While moderate Ridge became governor in Pennsylvania, conservative Republican Rick Santorum won the U.S. Senate seat. He joins liberal Republican Senator Arlen Specter. Talk about a big Republican tent.
When you look at someone who agrees with you 70–80% of the time, they're your friend, not your enemy, and on certain things we're not going to agree on, and that's okay as long as we can stick together on the majority of the time and move forward.
Enact legislation.
What unites these three different Republicans is their attitude toward what governing is all about. It's hard to pick the moderate from the conservative.
I think people are looking for less government, keeping more of their own money, setting their own priorities.
I think what the core of the government of being a Republican is smaller government, leaner government, and more personal responsibility.
Father, we pray.
But the battle begins over social issues. Ridge supports abortion rights and some affirmative action. Santorum doesn't.
I would like to think, if anything else, that the Republican Party and both parties would be tolerant of disparate points of view.
Santorum agrees, but says Republicans have to stand for something.
You know, I feel very strongly that, social issues should be part of what the Republican Party is all about. Even in states like Pennsylvania and in the upper Midwestern states, social issues drive the electorate in Republican primaries, and there are more and more people who are willing to throw people out of office or not elect them in the first place if they don't identify with those same problems and solutions.
What Rick Santorum threatens to do is to drive a wedge right through that long tradition, that long modus vivendi between the conservative and the moderate wings of the party.
Penn State professor Mike Young says Pennsylvania Republicans tolerated each other because no one thought ideologues could win state office. He fears Rick Santorum could change that.
There's going to be a deep, divisive, and potentially very, I think, bloody battle within the Pennsylvania Republican Party over the heart and soul of the party, over whose party it is, over who controls it, and what the Republican Party comes to stand for.
Santorum counters that would be self-defeating.
If we become a narrow fringe party, then you're not going to be a mover for change. I mean, you've got to keep everybody in the tent to continue to win.
God's country.
While Democrats charge the Republican Party is controlled by extremists, a CBS News New York Times poll shows 2/3 of Republican voters say they would ignore an endorsement from the religious right. On abortion, about 1/3 claim to be pro-choice, another third pro-life. And 3/4 say the Republican platform should not even deal with abortion.
But no matter how large the tent is, when it comes to winning elections, the Republican Party is something of a house divided. In 1995, it appears moderate Republicans can win the governor's house or the U.S. House and Senate. But when it comes to this house, it may be a different story.
There are a group of states that start out very early in the calendar, particularly Iowa, South Carolina, and Florida, where you've got to say that we are not going to allow federal funding of abortions. I mean, that basically is the key litmus test.
Linda Duvall is a Republican strategist who advises Senator Phil Gramm. She says the religious right has more influence than its numbers warrant in the presidential primaries.
So what you have is a strange dichotomy where some of the early states obviously advantage a candidate who holds a pro-life position. On the other hand, most Republicans, frankly, don't hold a rigid pro-life position.
Do you think a moderate could win the Republican presidential nomination?
Yes. Yes. It would be a difficult, challenging task to undertake.
I would say it would be very difficult on a national level for a moderate to win.
Pennsylvania, like America, is vast. Rural farmland, bordered by large cities. Republicans say their formula for success here is tolerance.
There aren't that many that are so sure of themselves, so confident in their own intuition, insight, and experience that anybody at the end of the day says, yes, that person does have all the answers, because they don't, and we know it.
The extreme right wing of the party cheered when Colin Powell decided not to run. But polls show 2/3 of Republicans view him favorably. General Powell and moderates like him say they have no plans to go away.
I thank them once again from the bottom of my heart, and I ask for their understanding.
So did you call for phone service?
Is technology amazing? At GTE, we think it should make your life easier, like Express Dial Tone, which allowed Kim Swanson to order new phone service by plugging in her phone,
Cool number, thanks.
which she finds pretty amazing.
What are you going to do for dinner?
We could have some wieners.
Why? Because she won't have to eat something really scary for dinner tonight. Amazing.
When you're selecting mutual funds, we don't recommend throwing darts. Unless, of course, this is what you're throwing at. The Select List, only from Charles Schwab. Culled from the over 350 no-load mutual funds we provide. It's an objective, easy-to-use summary of the historically high performers. For a free trial subscription, call 1-800-5-NO-LOAD. It just may help improve your aim.
Okay, I don't see much in here, just kind of flakes. There's nothing wrong with flakes per se. You know, flakes can be very useful when you're making a meatloaf or your bread and fish. Anywho, I'll give him a go. You know, just a little skosh, okay? Because I had the cupcake and the... you know? Hold on. They are, you know what they are? They are tasty. They are crispy and they are crunchy.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
Kellogg's Corn Flakes. You know, boy, that's a hoot.
Taste them again for the first time.
In the next half hour of Sunday morning, two musical quartets, one from over there and the other from right here.
Fred Couples, Steve Elkington, and John Daly join Greg Norman at the Franklin Templeton Shark Shootout. Stay out of the water. Today on CBS.
She's already lost one child. She's terrified of losing another. But is she about to lose her mind?
It was an accident!
Kelly McGillis in Remember Me tonight. A difficult patient
I thought I was on fire!
tries a doctor's patience. Richard Pryor makes his triumphant return to television. Chicago Hope, Monday.
This is CBS. I'm Susan Marshall, and I live in Portland. We have families in the neighborhood. We have single women. Unfortunately, it borders Sandy Boulevard, a mecca for adult-oriented businesses or sex shops. Women and children can't walk down their neighborhood streets without being harassed. It's just wrong. I have a lot of respect for Gordon Smith. Without Gordon's help, we would not be able to fight adult businesses. He cares about people, and he cares about this issue.
You can't judge a book by its cover, and the same is true of our forests. Some want us to believe that our forests should only be judged by their big trees. But actually, most wildlife species need a variety of tree sizes to thrive. By sustaining this variety, we're creating structural diversity and writing a new chapter in forestry that provides for both wildlife and human needs. That's important because Oregon's forests are a resource worth conserving.
IAMS understands that the simple act of petting a dog can make people healthier and happier. It's even been suggested that people who own dogs lead longer, fuller lives. Now, knowing what dogs do for you, wouldn't it be nice to do the same for them? You can, by feeding your dog IAMS every day. It's more nutritious because its quality ingredients are more digestible. IAMS dog food, good for life. From the IAMS Company.
Mike Donahue, News Center 6.
It's Sunday morning on CBS. And here again is Charles Osgood.
And our next topic is the Beatles. And here to talk about the Beatles, John Leonard. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Charles. Even now, so many years after the murder of John and the overdose of Elvis, Ringo's feelings are hurt. The Beatles all loved Elvis. They tracked him down on one of their American tours. John claimed to have jammed with him, though Paul, George, and Ringo say it wasn't so. And Elvis hated them. To Richard Nixon in 1970, Elvis wrote a letter saying the Beatles were not only anti-American, but also used drugs. Nixon was so grateful for this info that he deputized Elvis as a federal drug enforcement agent and tried to deport John. Never mind that Elvis canceled his own subscription on account of chemicals. Nowhere Man. Starting tonight on ABC, with more on Wednesday and Thanksgiving, you'll see 6 hours of the Beatles as they themselves would like to be remembered, in a splendid anthology of audio and video, interviews and studio rehearsals, home movies and concert performance clips. These are the tapes in our heads. You say goodbye, I say hello. From Liverpool Baby Pictures and The Random Snapshot to retrospective middle age.
What is the anthology? It is the Beatles story.
But we're trying to just say how it felt to us.
We've heard it from everybody else. Now you can hear it from us.
Just let me hear some of that rock and roll music.
From early raunch
It's got a backbeat, you can't lose it. Any old time you use it. Gotta be rock roll music. If you wanna dance with me.
Yesterday. To plaintive memory.
Love was such an easy game to play. Love you, yeah.
From cheeky working class.
Love you, yeah, yeah.
To somber meditation.
I read the news today. Oh,
From fun and games.
We were tight. That was one thing to be said about us. We were really tight, you know, as friends.
It was magical. 4 guys who really loved each other. It was pretty sensational.
To the occasional riot. From Sgt. Pepper to Strawberry Fields.
I'm going to Strawberry Fields.
It's a magical mystery history tour.
Please, 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 oh yeah. Here are the Beatles. Well, how can you laugh when you know I'm down? How can you laugh when you know I'm
You say you want a revolution? In Liverpool and Tokyo, in Hamburg and the Himalayas, they played hard and wore out from singing so many songs about peace and love and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. There hasn't been such a collaboration since the 17th century committee wrote the King James Bible. White albums, rubber soles, yellow submarines, their gift to us was communitarian. In the 60s, we never thought we'd live alone. We'd get by with a little help from our friends. Late at night, in the rinse cycle of reruns and infomercials, it sometimes seems to me that there must be millions of us out there, all the lonely people with burning leaves in our food holes, each as remote as our control, as if by switching channels fast enough in a pre-Oedipal blur, we could return to a garden of earthly delights, as if by ritual magic we might reenact some Neolithic origin myth and bring back John, and Jack, and Bobby, and Martin, and comradeship, and Fisher Kings, and a bountiful harvest and civility. I'm grateful to ABC for this gallant and generous reminder. Take a sad song and make it better.
Sai, ho finito la mia tesi di laurea.
Bravo, nonno. Su che cosa l'hai fatta?
L'improvvisazione nella musica di Bach, Dizzy Gillespie. Ho fatto tutte le mie ricerche alla facoltà di musica della Indiana University. Sì. La biblioteca della facoltà. L'IBM l'ha digitalizzata. Così con internet accesso alla musica quando voglio. Sì, sono proprio bei tempi questi.
You've always made a great team. Together growing, dreaming, caring, and sharing the rewards along the way. Park Avenue. For the comfort, for the luxury, for the quality. Congratulations, you've earned it. Buick Park Avenue.
Wherever you're waking up, there's freshly brewed coffee by the cup.
Folgers Coffee Singles is ground roast Folgers in its own filter for one great cup, anywhere.
Best part of waking up
Is Singles in your cup.
I can definitely connect my love of nature with the work that I've done. This is a polyester bottle. There's 30 billion pounds of polyester plastic produced in the world each year. Most of that has to be disposed of. DuPont has developed technology that allows us to recycle it endlessly. It actually unzips the molecule. This soda bottle, perhaps it will become the shirt that I'm wearing. Or videotape, curtains, film, carpeting, fabric, audio tape. It's evergreen. The cycle can continue on and on and on.
It took an invasion of Panama to arrest him. But get this, he may get a new trial because of a secret U.S. deal with notorious drug runners that helped put him away.
You're completely innocent, you're saying? Yes. In this case, totally.
Will Manuel Noriega have the last laugh? A CBS News exclusive, Monday on the CBS Evening News.
Troubled waters may be troubled for many reasons, of course. Nature roils the seas of the earth from time to time. But those troubles pass. Some troubles, however, the ones we cause, do not pass. Come and meet with Richard Threlkeld, a woman who believes that the height of beauty on this planet is to be found in its depths, along with some very troubling warning signs.
It was 1947, and the water here was like the Bahamas. It was clear, beautiful, alive, and full of critters. Seahorses, horseshoe crabs, those wonderful ancient creatures that caused me, I think, first to fall in love with life in the sea. On this beach, if we started...
When Sylvia Earle was just 3 years old, she was knocked off her feet by an ocean wave. It was the start of a love affair. She spent her life studying, exploring, and trying to save the sea.
In fact, if we dug down into a place that we could put our arms around here, we'd find a great diversity of life. They're tiny creatures that live actually between the sand grains.
Alive, not
Alive,
just dead
no,
shells.
absolutely not. In a productive beach, a good, healthy beach, you may find as much as 500,000 to 2 million small creatures in a square meter, this much space.
Trouble is, the beaches and the ocean itself are not all that healthy anymore. Here in Clearwater, Florida, where she grew up, and in oceans all over the world, Sylvia Earle has witnessed a sea change. She's written a book about it called Sea Change.
A wonderful passage in there about if you had a choice of coming back and seeing all of this 1,000 years ago.
Oh, yes. Wouldn't that be something?
What would you see?
Well, I think there would be clear water in Clearwater.
It should be about 2,000, 2,200.
To understand what Sylvia Earle is talking about, what she's worried about, requires some show and tell. You need to see for yourself what's happening in the place that she's most at home, underwater.
I think one of the most exciting things about going into a part of the ocean anywhere is that it's filled with life. We can see how we're related to all those other creatures. It really is like diving into the history of life.
The coral reef along the National Marine Sanctuary in the Florida Keys is a protected area, but even here, the coral is dying.
Reefs, including, well, most conspicuously the coral, have an abundance and diversity of life that is unparalleled on the planet. It's partly a source of food, it's partly a source of habitat, a structure, a substance to an area.
And it's beautiful.
So for Sylvia Earle, one of the great mysteries of the sea is why we humans insist on taking it for granted.
Why should I care if there's a sea or no sea? Imagine Mars. No pesky ocean there, and no life either.
And no people.
No place hospitable for humankind.
Aren't you a radical about protecting the oceans?
If I seem like a radical, it may be because I see things that others do not. And I think if others had the opportunity to witness what I have seen in my lifetime, what I see when I go diving, and the perspective that I've gained from thousands of hours underwater, I would not seem like a radical at all.
She's been diving longer, more often and deeper than most anyone on Earth. They started calling Sylvia Earle her deepness after her record-breaking dive to 1,250 feet in the waters off Hawaii.
In 1979, I had a chance to use this gym suit that looks like an astronaut suit. Actually, it looks like the Michelin Man. And down into that great, clear, blue, warm water. It wasn't so warm when I got to the bottom.
Earle has spent weeks at a time living in underwater habitats. Her dream is to descend to Ocean Everest, the deepest part of the sea, 7 miles down.
I want to go. I've never been. The greatest depth I've been so far is to 12,000, well, about 13,000 feet. And I want to be there. I want to see what the ocean is like throughout its full depth. And many
Because
people
it's
should do
there.
this. Well, partly, but more than that. That's sure. That's because I'm a human being, after all. It's the way we tick. But far more than just that incentive to explore. It's because the oceans are vital to our survival and our well-being, and we are changing the nature of the oceans. And we better find out what's going on.
Part of what's going on is pollution, the deliberate dumping of it into the sea, and overfishing. Humankind is taking too much out of the sea.
The ocean is fundamentally so much more important to us than what we can remove from it, or even as a place where we can dump things into it. It is our life support system. Without a healthy ocean, our future is in great jeopardy. If the ocean dies, we die. This whole effort to remove from the beaches, at least, some of the debris that has been either inadvertently or deliberately tossed into the sea, the trash, the junk.
She urges people to look beneath the surface with lectures like this at the Smithsonian's Ocean Planet exhibition.
In the ocean, it's not just the large, the slow, and the tasty. It's just about anything that we can put our nets around that currently are threatened by our actions, and mostly by our ignorance.
As you might imagine, fish are not part of Sylvia Earle's diet.
It's hard to think about fish just as fillets once you've gotten to know them eye to eye. You've got this mix of scientific expertise and engineering expertise, and of course
She's the former chief scientist for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and she helped found Deep Ocean Engineering, a leading designer of underwater robots, state-of-the-art technology for deep-sea research.
10 years ago, these things didn't exist, and now there are more than 300 of them, and they're all over the world, and they're doing neat stuff. Here we go.
How's the current?
At the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution in Massachusetts, she introduced students to Phantom.
Dive, dive, dive. Whoop, 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 whoop. Phantom is a remotely operated vehicle. The name comes from the idea that if you can't get down to the place you want to go yourself, you can send your spirit and vicariously go underwater.
But for Sylvia Earle, this world beneath the waves, her world, is best visited in person. It would be a perfect world indeed if she never had to come up for air.
It's just such a glorious sense of freedom. It's like being a piece of plankton, a jellyfish. It's like going home.
Right now, it's dessert time at the Thompsons. For years, pumpkin pie has been their favorite, and this year is no exception. So they're not even thinking how it's made with the pick of the pumpkin patch, how skilled hands made it smooth and creamy, how seasonings blended for the perfect taste. And neither is Mrs. Thompson, because this year she brought home a President's Choice pumpkin pie from Fred Meyer, for people who love great food and lower prices.
Les Schwab, winter batteries to get you through for whatever you drive.
What really matters in life isn't how pretty you are, how strong you are, how successful you are, or how funny you are. What matters is how loved you are and how much you love, how happy you are and how healthy you are. To protect what really matters, you need top-rated hospitals and a health plan with a range of wellness classes and medical benefits. A system founded by people who were thinking of the things that matter to you. And with Providence, you'll feel good knowing that all that really matters to us is you.
What does farming mean to you? You probably don't think about it much, but farmers touch our lives more than we know. Sure, we all enjoy the food that they provide, but they also supply us with many other products, such as dyes for clothing, grass for athletic fields, medical supplies, and more. Although only 2% of Oregonians are farmers, their efforts contribute to the quality of life all of us in the Northwest enjoy. When you think about it, just about everything starts on the farm. Northwest farmers, growing for the world.
Billy Taylor joins us now to introduce us to a string quartet. Good morning, Billy.
Good morning, Charles.
Think about string quartets, the name that pops to my mind is Beethoven, maybe Mozart, but this is not what we're talking about.
No, well, these people actually play Beethoven and Mozart, and they've done a whole lot in the European classical tradition, but individually and collectively, they decided that they wanted to try America's classical music and do jazz. And so they studied it and they play it well. They're really beautiful. The thing that excites me is that they're teachers as well as pupils. They've studied jazz, but they pass it on. As a matter of fact, they're folks who practice what they preach. At the Interlochen Center for the Arts in Michigan, if you see 4 people carrying 1 cello, 2 violins, and a viola, you think string quartet. But this is a string quartet with a difference. This is a group that knows how to get down. This is the Uptown String Quartet.
You know, you get on stage and become an animal. You know, it's like...
That animal is cellist Eileen Folsom.
Sometimes we'll go on stage and we'll have no idea what we're going to play. And that's really the joy, the freedom of expression.
Diane Monroe plays violin, as does Lisa Terry.
Dispelling the myth that strings can't swing greatly propels this group. Great. Can't wait to hit the stage and hit it hard.
Maxine Roach is the violist. The Uptown String Quartet's repertoire draws on their African-American heritage. From jazz to spirituals to ragtime. It's a heritage they shared with students in Iowa City.
What's your story? How'd you get together?
This group actually was created by my father, Max Roach. He wanted to add a string quartet to his quartet.
The group was formed almost 15 years ago. The idea came from something Maxine's grandmother said to her father, the legendary drummer Max Roach.
One day she said to him, Max, you know, you played with Dizzy Gillespie, Duke Ellington, Miles Davis, Charles Parker. When are you going to play with your daughter? So then he came up with the idea of a string quartet.
While each of the members grew up surrounded by the music of the African-American culture, their formal training was in the European classical tradition. If there's one major difference between the conservatory approach to string instruments and their approach, it's in the way they use the bow.
As a classically trained musician, you're taught to use your entire bow, and you're taught to almost make every note a pearl. With this music we play, it's almost the opposite, and you have to use very, very little bow to articulate the music. So you have to teach yourself. You have to add on to what you already know.
Playing African-American music on string instruments was more than just a new experience. It was also a journey of self-discovery.
I have roots for the first time, you know, just like my Russian friends when they play Tchaikovsky concerto, you know. I mean, they have roots. And when we play the music, you know, indigenous to our culture, it speaks that much more.
For Eileen Folsom, leaving her symphony orchestra job and joining an all-black women's quartet was a liberating experience.
There's a barrier that's not there of having to prove yourself every note that you play. That's a given. Okay, I know you can play. Let's get to the music. Let's express ourselves.
You know, die behind the music stage.
For Lisa Terry, the formation of this quartet was an opportunity to expand her personal style in non-traditional ways.
It provided me with a vehicle to have self-expression, to have input, creative input, to become a composer, to become an arranger.